This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime. In association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Indian students are going out in record numbers. In fact, the period 2000 to 2009 perhaps saw its sharpest increase ever in the number of Indians that are now spending to get good quality education abroad. Many of you, of course, are also aware of the NDTV Deacon Scholarship and have applied for it. So good luck with cracking that as well.
Last year, Indian students spent $7 billion studying in foreign universities.
And this year, one exceptionally bright, not to mention incredibly lucky student is going to be one of them, that too free of cost.
Deakin University and NDTV are partnering in a 100% tuition-free scholarship.
An intelligent, hard-working and enterprising student.
And someone who's socially responsible, who can help to shape the India story.
So apply now for a scholarship grant of 60 lakh rupees.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study with the best free of cost.
Log on to ndtv.com/scholarship. Last date of applications is 20th May 2015.
Because India's brightest minds deserve the finest opportunities.
Joining us now for those who have studied abroad and studied actually at Deakin in Australia and are here to share their experiences and how they chose the course and the experience really of studying in a foreign country on a campus which perhaps has students from all over the globe. Well, with me now, Dhruv Mohan, Mitali Swaminathan, Danish Aziz and Jyoti Shekhar. Thanks all so much for taking our time to come and speak to us this morning. Jyoti, let me start by asking you, how does one choose, you studied law.
Yes.
Now, how does one really choose the subject? Is it something that you always had an interest in, something that came up and therefore you grabbed it? How does it work?
No, actually, that was something, that was a childhood dream for me. I was hardly in 4th or 5th standard when I decided I want to do law. And somehow I never changed my mind and I pursued that. And once I finished my bachelor's, that's when I decided, okay, I need some international experience, and then I went ahead to do masters from Deakin.
Right. That's, I have to say, that's amazing clarity, because at that age, I think in class 4 or 5, I changed my mind every 6 months, if not more frequently, from wanting to be a ballerina to a dancer to God knows what else and all of that. But we'll get into that later. Danish, what about you? I mean, when you sort of zero in on what you want to study, what was the whole process like of trying to find out where? I mean, the world is a very large place. So how do you sort of like figure out where, what are the kind of options that you had?
Well, I basically went to Deakin with a very specific course. It was a humanitarian leadership program and it was an executive education, so obviously not a, I did it mid-career. So there wasn't much of a choice here. I knew what I wanted. I was already doing that work and I had to kind of get into it anyways. So I chose humanitarian leadership as something that was being offered.
How much are these mid-career courses, in your opinion, sort of like important for all of us to sort of keep skilling ourselves and sort of keeping abreast with what's happening globally?
Very useful, very useful, because there are skills that you might have, you know, upgraded in 10 years and you might want to go back to a university and upgrade those skills. There are new things that might have come up. You need to brush up your skills, so very relevant, I would say.
Mitali, what about you? You studied marketing and e-commerce.
Yes.
Really, that's really, and you're back to work in India?
Yes,
and
I'm
e-commerce is really buzzing, so you've obviously come back at the right place at the right time.
Yes, I have.
So how has what you studied really making a difference to what you're doing right now?
So I actually did my undergraduation also in Australia, and Australia was a country that I always wanted to go from, because I mean my sister studied in the US and I had this dream that I want to go to Australia, because it was not only academics that I really wanted to get into, but I think I had heard that Australia is a place where you can build your overall personality, extracurricular activities, and I was more interested in the other things than just studying.
Your sister went to the US and you sort of knew that. And you know, usually just the reverse happens,
Yes,
because usually we're told that because my sister went to X country,
Yeah.
therefore it was going to be easier for me. I would have known. So
I was very sure that I wanted to go down under, and
okay.
I wanted to do other things other than just studies.
So you spent a fair number of years.
Yeah,
there.
a fair number
So
of
what
years.
prompted the decision to come back?
So I actually got my residency permit there. I'm an Australian PR there. But I always wanted to come back to India because I thought that what I studied there and what I worked there, I wanted to come back and do something in India because I felt that India is really booming and I feel whatever I've learned overseas, I've got the exposure, I've got my experience there, I want to come back
and use it in India.
Yeah. And I think what I learned in Australia, in my course, in my e-commerce and MBA, and I think I am using it a lot in my present job because at the moment I'm working with KPMG in consulting.
Okay.
And a lot that I learned during my course, so I am working with a lot of online e-commerce companies now, which has actually helped me to, you know, network more with my clients across the globe.
Jyoti, if I can just come back to you, studied law there. Now, you know, Mitali coming back and using it here. Increasingly, we are seeing a large number of Indian students who do study abroad, maybe they're undergrad, postgrad, also wanting to come back and do something hands-on in the country. How was it in your experience, say, with your batch of the number of Indians that were there, or the number of students who were there who wanted to go back to their own country? Because very often one also sees that it's also seen as an opportunity to perhaps get a residence permit in the country that you're going to study.
Yeah, so you don't find many lawyers who actually go abroad and study something and want to come back because it actually doesn't make much sense when you actually look at it that way. But then for me, I wanted to just study there. I studied in Australia for 1 year and I always wanted to come back. My idea was, my basic undergrad was in Indian law and I wanted to pursue that. But I wanted an international exposure also, a different point of view of looking at things, of research, of, you know, it opens up your minds to different things. So, but basically it was very rare in my area of study for people to come back. And when I was doing masters,
that you were going against the grain, that you were
I was.
People
told me, or you know, why are you even doing this? It doesn't make sense. But then again,
they
I had a lot of clarity. They do.
I'm sure that you got that too, and then I'll get Dhruv in. I mean, did you get that too, Dhruv? I mean, like the reason to go back. Why do you want to go back? And you've done a Masters of Sports Management. I want to get into that a little later. But coming back, I mean, do sort of people look at you a bit strangely, even now?
See, I was pretty sorted in terms of what I wanted.
I think it's common to everyone here. Everyone seems was just pretty sorted, right from the beginning anyway.
You know, for me, going to a country which is known for sports, for professionalism in sports, you know, having played a sport at a competitive level, I'm an ex-Ranji Trophy player myself. So, you know, I've played at a competitive level. So, choosing a course in sports management was pretty logical because I wanted to upskill myself, right? And then when you look at a country like Australia that, you know, does well across sports, that's where you want to be. And while I was doing my course, I was lucky enough to get engaged with people at a club level. So I got an understanding of how things work. And as Jyoti was saying, so I got an understanding. I knew that I've taken that understanding and I want to come back to a country where sports is growing with each passing day.
So do you find that the fact that you studied Masters of Sports Management, which perhaps is still in its very sort of early nascent stages in India, but are there enough takers? Did you find people sort of interested in what you'd studied and perhaps an opportunity to apply it here? What's been your experience of?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, things are changing and, you know, it's a slow process, but we have grown in the past years. And the fact is that sooner or later, if the industry has to grow, it has to employ the right professionals. And when you get that exposure at an international level, you bring that with you.
That's an interesting point both you've made and Jyoti made. Danish, I want to get to it. You know, we keep talking about this international exposure and how a bit of international exposure really helps. What would you say is the one thing that sort of really is the one thing that sets it apart from what we have here? Like a short-term course here, mid-career for you, would be, how would it compare to something that you did or something someone else could do in another place?
Well, I think the word is multicultural environment. I think you, even in your work environment, sometimes you have a lot of Indians also going and working abroad. So I think if you get that sort of an multicultural international exposure at your academic level, it's easier for you to deal with that kind of a thing at a professional level. So that's one thing which we found, that we did these programs with different agencies across the world, Save the Children, AusAid. So we have a certain way of working out here in our sector, and getting exposed to their methods of working. That is what I think brings in the whole value add to this sort of a program. You know.
And would it be fair fair to say that when you go, say, for something like you did mid-career, you were very clear, you were already in a line of work and you just wanted to enhance your skills there. Then the exposure that you talk the multiculturality that you're talking about, meeting people from all over the world doing this kind of course just sort of enriches the whole experience.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what, I think that would constitute a very major chunk of what you're doing over there, because they don't really teach you something very radical out there.
Right, of course.
Especially if you've spent like over a decade in the sector, there's nothing new you're going to learn.
I would imagine.
It's probably terms here and there. But apart from that, the whole way of working, how those people do their work and how is it different back in your country, and also understanding it's being compatible with other cultures, being compatible, it's sensitive to other cultures and their norms. That is, I think, one very big thing. If you get that at an academic level in your formative years, that is definitely going to help you in your professional life, definitely.
Right. Joni, you said that you were always sort of very clear on what you wanted to do, and so you sort of went down the path, you had charted it out in your head. But for all those who are still not very clear, and I mean, I think that there are a fair number of those out there who sort of till the very end, they're very clear that they want to go out, or they may have to for a whole host of reasons, but not sure what to do, not sure what to study, what's for them, etc. Not everyone has this kind of clarity. So what would you say?
And today it's much easier to actually research. You can Google stuff, you can actually see what area interests you. Like for me, I started off when I was a kid, I started off with, I want to be a criminal lawyer because that's what people do. And I got a lot of Perry Mason novels and that kind of thing. So that was...
It is quite aspirational actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think even I was there once, 20 years ago, but yes.
So the entire thing was completely dramatized in my head, and that's what I wanted to do. But then gradually, yes, a lot of avenues opened up, a lot of things I saw. And then right now what I do is corporate law. So it's much easier right now to actually Google things, talk to people and kind of figure out what exactly is it that you want to do. So the key to this is research, know the area better than what you already do. So ask questions. And that's how you find out where your interest lies.
Right. And how much of that did you do? I mean, how much of sort of like, really? Because it's your future, I imagine.
Absolutely, and I did a lot of extensive research before I actually pinpointed where I wanted to go. Because even if you talk in terms of sports management, it's offered across the globe.
I see.
Right, okay. So it's there in US, it's there in UK. So it was very important for me to, land up in a place where I was pretty convinced that I want to go and study, and that's what I did.
Right.
And it actually blended well because Australia is a sporting nation.
Right.
So for me, it was, when I land in Melbourne, I get exposed to sports across with the likes of Australian Open, cricket at the MCG, Formula One.
Right.
So it's brilliant exposure.
Right.
So yeah, so I took all that into account, and I did a lot of extensive research.
Right. Mitali, I would imagine that research is something that, that I always sort of got that out of the way, that research, as you said, and perhaps some more research thrown in. What was the one thing that you believe you found challenging?
In Australia?
Yeah.
Or
in Australia?
In Australia.
Because I know that language is not the problem.
No, language is of course not a problem.
Because there's always sort of one thing in a new country that is always a bit of a challenge. And there are a whole host of things that make you very comfortable and you fit right in. So give us a sense of both.
I don't think I found anything really challenging as such, because the university that I went to, because like I told you, I did my undergraduate there, so it was a smooth transition from moving from Brisbane to Melbourne.
What about your undergrad?
My undergrad was in Queensland. Yeah, so I was young, and but I think I was always the adventurous type, and I wanted to go out and live away from home, and it was always there in me that I wanted to do something different, and So I found the accent, the Aussie accent, very difficult to catch, but then it
does take some getting used to, I think. Yes.
Yeah, but overall,
fair enough.
My transition phase was a great period.
Drew, what about you?
See, I've been
I know that you enjoyed the sporting culture, so
Absolutely,
we've got that sorted out of the way.
But apart from that, I'll take from where Mitali has left, not just the accent, but there are a few phrases that you need to get used to.
You need to get used to,
And you haven't heard them before. But once you catch hold of them, then life becomes very, very easy, right? So that's one aspect. Apart from them, people are pretty warm. And having played a sport, it became easy for me to go and gel in that environment. So that was pretty helpful.
Right. Well, we're going to be slipping into a quick break now, but there's so much more to talk about, a lot more from your experiences, and to help all those who want to study abroad, figuring out where to go, the things to keep in mind when you're zeroing on your course, and also the country that you want to study, be it any part of the world. We're coming back with those tips right after this break.